My name is Camilla. I am 26 years old, and tonight I smiled across the table and said, Mom, my brother's wedding anniversary is tomorrow. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe. Because what happened after that one soft sentence turned a family celebration into a ledger of truths I can't unsee. Forks paused. Glasses hovered midair. Mom kept her eyes on the linen, then whispered, barely moving her lips, "It was last week." The room lost its laughter. My brother Dylan stared at his plate like it could rewrite time. Dad cleared his throat the way he always does when he plans to say nothing at all. Only Aunt May, hands folded, cardigan sleeves pushed to the elbows, looked at me like she'd been bracing for this break in the surface. No one asked why I said it. No one had to. Because the anniversary wasn't about love. It was a receipt. I'd spent the last month untangling invoices labeled party deposit, caterer retainer, floral rush, all charged to my accounts through family consolidation. Dylan called it streamlining. Dad called it temporary. Mom called it support. I called it what it was, theft dressed as tradition. I set my fork down. Not loud. Deliberate. Congratulations, I said softly. I hope the photos were worth the overdraft fee. Dylan flinched. Mom's smile hardened. We discussed this, Camilla. We didn't, I replied. You announced it. Break time equals, 2/. Flashback. January. My promotion letter glowing on my phone while Mom texted me, need your card, decor vendor won't hold. February. Dad forwarding a short-term transfer with a thumbs-up emoji. March. Aunt May's voice on the phone, keep your receipts, honey. Someday they'll need them more than you do. I lifted a slim envelope from my bag and slid it beside Dad's glass. Inside. Statements, authorizations, Dylan's cheerful email. Run it through Cam's account. She owes the family anyway. Dad didn't touch it. He never touches the thing that proves he's complicit. Mom exhaled like steam through a cracked pipe. We will repay you. You won't, I said. Because you didn't intend to. Aunt May's chair creaked as she leaned forward. Camilla, do you want to end this here or finally start it? I met her eyes, and for the first time in years I felt the room get smaller than me. I thought naming the date would be enough. Until Dylan reached for his phone and made the call that turned our dinner into a transaction I couldn't forgive. Dylan's phone buzzed against the table. He stepped away, whispering harshly. Mom's lips thinned into that polite, deadly smile she reserves for waiters and truth. Camilla, you embarrassed your brother in public. I folded my napkin. He embarrassed himself the moment he used my name to pay for his flowers. Dad finally spoke. We're family. Money circles back. I looked at him. Funny how it only circles one way. Break time equals, 2/. If you're still watching, hit like and subscribe. Because silence was the family language and I just switched dialects to accountability. Dylan returned, face flushed. Happy now, he snapped. I met his stare. Was that your bank calling or the caterer you never paid? Aunt May coughed to hide a smile. Mom's voice cut through. Enough. This conversation ends here. No, I said. It ends when the balance does. I opened my laptop right there at the table. The restaurant's soft jazz kept playing while I logged into the family expense account. One by one I reversed the transfers. Every unauthorized charge, every favor, every shared bill. The waiter brought dessert no one touched. Dad whispered, people are watching. I hope so, I said. Witnesses help memory. Flashback. The day I got my first paycheck. Mom hugging me too tightly. Finally, you can help us breathe a little. Back then I thought she meant pride. Now I know she meant payroll. Eli, the manager, kind enough to pretend he wasn't hearing, slipped me the receipt folder. Everything under your name, miss, he said quietly. Dylan reached to grab it. I pulled it back. Don't, I warned. The last time you touched something of mine, it disappeared. Aunt May whispered, you have every right, honey. I nodded. And tomorrow morning I'll close the joint account. The one Dad opened for emergencies. Dad exhaled sharply. You'll regret making enemies in your own bloodline. I met his gaze. Then maybe I was born for better veins. That night when I checked my phone, there was a new message, from Mom's lawyer. The message flashed across my screen. From Evelyn Hartman, attorney at law. Subject, family property adjustment, urgent. My breath caught. They'd moved faster than I thought. I opened it. Cold, clean words filled the screen. Effective immediately, per mutual agreement among beneficiaries, your stake in the family estate has been reallocated pending further review. I laughed. The kind of sound that comes out when something inside you stops breaking and starts hardening. Break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, hit like and subscribe. Because sometimes, the first person to teach you betrayal is the same one who tucked you in at night. Mom always said the law was family business. Now she turned it into a weapon. I called Aunt May. She answered on the first ring. You got the email, didn't you? Yes. Her voice trembled. They're trying to lock you out of the estate. Your mother's claiming financial irresponsibility. She wants the court to see you as unstable with money. I laughed again. Because I stopped funding their parties? Because you made them look small, Aunt May said softly. And people like your mother can't survive small. I looked out the window, city lights smudging into gold streaks. Let them try, I whispered. I've got something better than lawyers. Flashback. Months earlier I'd started tracking every transfer, every loan, every apology followed by a request. Not out of suspicion, out of exhaustion. Turns out exhaustion makes a great archive. Each screenshot, each memo, each thank you Cam from Dylan became my quiet collection of proof. And tonight I opened the folder titled, For When They Forget. Inside were 43 files. Receipts. Voice notes. Even Mom's own text. Don't overthink this, sweetheart. You know Dylan deserves it more. You'll understand when you're older. I was older now. The next morning, I booked a meeting with the same lawyer who handled their reallocation. Her assistant tried to reschedule me. I said, tell her it's about liability exposure. That word gets you a seat every time. By noon, I sat across from her mahogany desk. She smiled politely. Camilla, how can I help? I slid the envelope across the table. By deciding whose reputation you'd rather protect. Her smile faltered, right before my phone buzzed again with a text from Dylan. We need to talk. It's about Mom. I stared at the message from Dylan. We need to talk. It's about Mom. For the first time in years he sounded afraid. Not arrogant. Not smug. Just human. So I didn't reply. Not yet. Break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, hit like and subscribe. Because guilt always comes dressed as apology when power slips away. I turned my attention back to Evelyn, Mom's lawyer. Her hands trembled slightly as she flipped through my envelope. One by one she pulled out receipts, statements and voice notes. When she reached the one labeled Transfer Confirmation, Dylan/Anniversary Fund, she paused. Where did you get this? She asked. From my own bank. She leaned back. Camilla, you realize this could invalidate their claim against you? I'm counting on it, I said. She hesitated, lowering her voice. Off the record. Your mother has been trying to dissolve your grandfather's secondary trust. The one with your name still attached. My pulse quickened. The education trust? Yes. It's still active technically. But she filed a motion last week to liquidate it under abandoned beneficiary status. I blinked. She claimed I abandoned myself? Evelyn sighed. She's desperate. That trust is the only thing she can't fully access. I stood. Then I'll give her a reason to remember I exist. Flashback. When I was 12, Mom told me, control the story and you'll never lose the room. I never realized she meant it literally, because she'd spent her life controlling my story. Now I was rewriting it. That evening I finally texted Dylan back. Meet me tomorrow. Noon. The old family house. His reply came instantly. She'll be there. She's not well. I didn't know if that meant guilt or strategy. Maybe both. But either way I needed to look her in the eyes. Aunt May called just as I was heading out the next morning. Camilla, don't go alone. I'm not, I said quietly. I've got the truth with me. Break time equals 2/. When I pulled up to the house, the windows were dark but the front door was slightly open. Just enough to feel like an invitation and a warning all at once. Inside I heard Mom's voice, not soft, not calm, but trembling as she said to Dylan, she's going to take everything from us. The front door creaked as I stepped inside. The house smelled of old polish and rain, memories preserved in wood and dust. Mom's voice echoed from the living room. She's going to take everything from us. I paused in the hallway. Her tone wasn't angry anymore. It was scared. Dylan's voice followed, low and tense. She already has Mom. The accounts, the lawyer, she's ahead of us. I turned the corner. They both froze. Mom sat on the couch, hands clasped, eyes tired but sharp. Dylan stood beside her like a guard who no longer believed in his post. "Hello, Mom," I said softly. "You called me unstable. I came to prove you right. Break time equals 2/4. If you're still here, hit like and subscribe, because sometimes power doesn't look like shouting. It looks like calm in a storm built to break you." Mom straightened. "I didn't want it to come to this." "That's the problem," I said. "You never want. You just decide." Dylan stepped forward. "Kim, please. She's not herself. The stress." "She forged my name, Dylan. The least she could do is remember it." Mom's eyes filled but didn't spill. "I was trying to protect our image," she whispered. "Your father's firm is collapsing. If this comes out..." I cut her off. "Then he'll finally face what he built." A heavy silence followed. Outside, thunder rolled again. Inside, the chandelier swayed slightly, light trembling across the marble. Mom's voice cracked. "We were drowning, Camilla. You have no idea what it's like to hold a family together when everyone's watching." "I do," I said quietly. "I just did it alone." I dropped a small stack of papers on the coffee table, printouts of my lawyer's filings. The bureau received everything. The trust, the transfers, the property reallocation. "You can't undo this now." Dylan rubbed his temples. "You think this makes you better?" "No," I said. "It makes me free." Mom looked at me with something between fury and admiration. "You sound just like your grandmother," she said bitterly. I smiled faintly. "That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me." Break time equals 2/4. I turned to leave, but Mom's trembling voice stopped me. "Wait. There's one thing you don't know." I paused. She nodded toward the upstairs hallway. "In your grandfather's study. Bottom drawer. It's time you see what he really left you." When I opened that drawer, beneath the faded letters and photo albums, there was a single envelope, stamped with my name, and his handwriting. The drawer slid open with a dry groan, releasing the faint scent of cedar and ink. Inside, beneath brittle envelopes and folded newspaper clippings, lay a thick ivory letter sealed with crimson wax. My name, Camilla, was written in the elegant, deliberate script of my grandfather. For a moment I just stared at it. Hands shaking. Heart heavy with everything I thought I already knew. Break time equals 2/4. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe. Because sometimes the truth doesn't knock. It waits for decades, silent, patient, and perfectly timed. I broke the seal. The letter began simply. "My dearest granddaughter. If you're reading this, it means the others have already turned the family name into currency. I saw it coming. That's why I left something they couldn't touch. Something they'd never understand." My eyes darted down the page. He'd transferred ownership of Harrington Ridge, the family estate I grew up visiting every summer. But not to my parents. Not to Dylan. To me. "It was yours from the beginning, though I made the deed intentionally obscure. I wanted to see who among you would value legacy over power. If you're the one holding this, you've answered my question." I sank into the leather chair, letter trembling in my hands. Aunt May's voice echoed from years ago. "Your grandfather always said you had his stubbornness." I used to think that was a curse. Now it felt like inheritance. I folded the letter carefully and walked back downstairs. Mom looked up, hope flickering for the briefest moment, as if I might hand her the past. Instead, I laid the envelope on the table. "He left the house to me," I said quietly. Her lips parted, eyes darting to Dylan for help. Dylan exhaled. "Of course he did. You were his favorite. That's why you don't understand responsibility." I smiled faintly. "Responsibility? You mean accountability." Mom rose to her feet, shaking her head. "You'll never survive without us, Camilla. That house, those accounts, they'll eat you alive." I looked at her and said softly, "Maybe. But at least I'll starve on my own terms." Break time equals 2/4. Thunder cracked again outside. Somewhere deep inside I felt the weight of years lift, replaced by something new, control. But when I turned the letter over, a second sheet slipped out, and at the bottom in my grandfather's handwriting was one more line. You're not the only heir. Find the hidden clause. The second sheet was thin, almost translucent, like it wasn't meant to survive time. At the bottom, beneath my grandfather's elegant handwriting, the words blurred slightly with age. You're not the only heir. Find the hidden clause. A shiver ran through me. I held the page up to the light and faint letters appeared beneath the ink. Invisible at first glance, but unmistakable under the glow of the desk lamp. Coordinates. A date. A name, Eleanor Hartman. I frowned. My mother's maiden name was Evelyn Hartman. But break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, hit like and subscribe, because the worst betrayals aren't always done by your enemies, they're woven into your bloodline. I searched the old estate archives that night. Dust-covered boxes, deed books, wills, amendments. And there it was. Clause 14b, Beneficiary Addendum, Eleanor Hartman. Attached, a small yellowed photograph. It was Aunt May, younger, standing beside my grandfather. Her full name on the record, Eleanor May Hartman. My throat tightened. Aunt May, the quiet one, the loyal one, wasn't just my aunt. She was my grandfather's first daughter. My mother's half-sister. And that meant the inheritance wasn't just mine. It was hers too. I called her immediately. She answered in a whisper. You found it. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because your mother made me promise never to. She said it would destroy the family if the truth came out. It already did, I said. She sighed. Your grandfather wanted fairness. But your mother wanted control. She used me as the quiet witness, the one who'd never fight for what was hers. I swallowed. And now, she said softly, I think he wanted you to be the one who finally told the truth. I looked at the letter again, my grandfather's signature glinting under the lamp. The man everyone thought was blind to his family's corruption had written his redemption plan right into the fine print, and hidden it inside the one thing they all ignored, loyalty. Break time equals 2/. I folded both letters together and whispered to the empty room. You saw us all along, didn't you? The storm outside quieted as if even the night had paused to listen. At sunrise, my phone rang, Aunt May's voice trembling on the other end. Camilla, your mother knows you found it. She's coming to the ridge. The sun was barely up when I heard the tires crunch over the gravel driveway of Harrington Ridge. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw Mom's silver car stop beside the old fountain. She stepped out in a beige coat, face calm, eyes unreadable, the same look she wore at funerals and fundraisers. I didn't move. I let her come to me. Break time equals 2/. If you're watching this, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe. Because some battles aren't fought with shouting, they're won in silence, in ink and in signatures that finally tell the truth. She walked into the house without knocking. I see you found the letter, she said. I nodded. And the clause. Her expression flickered. Then you know it's not just yours. I do, I said. Which is why I called Aunt May. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. Aunt May appeared, small, steady, carrying the second envelope. Mom's jaw tightened. You told her, she hissed. Aunt May's voice was calm. He told both of us. You just never thought we'd compare notes. I placed the deeds on the table. Mom, the estate is co-owned. You can't dissolve it, you can't transfer it, and you can't hide it. The Bureau already confirmed the filings. And the trust. I slid another folder forward. Now publicly listed under Harrington Restoration Foundation. Her face drained of color. You're giving it away? I met her gaze. No. I'm giving it back. She laughed bitterly. Do you think this makes you noble? You've ruined our name. I smiled faintly. No, Mom. I finally made it honest. Break time equals 2/. Aunt May reached over and placed her hand on mine. He would have been proud of you, Camilla. Mom turned toward the door. You'll regret this. I stood. Maybe. But at least I'll regret it in peace. She didn't answer. She just left, the same way she always did, when control slipped through her fingers. Later that night, Aunt May and I walked through the empty halls of the ridge. The portraits on the walls seemed to watch us differently now, not with judgment but with quiet approval. I set the final document down on my grandfather's desk, the one naming me and Aunt May as rightful heirs. Let them keep the lies, I whispered. We'll keep the legacy. The rain stopped. The morning light broke through the window, soft and golden. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small in this house. I felt home. Have you ever been betrayed by the people who raised you? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. They took my name. I took back the house.